I
Okay.
had worked with multiple firms. Currently, I'm working with FinTech Blue, which is an insurance firm. I have previously worked with companies like I have worked as a contractor for Apple Online Store. Have worked as a full-time engineer for Wipro, for PTC. There are multiple companies in Pipe. So,
Oh,
um,
nice.
okay, so we are here to share our experience. So I'm going to share my experience and whatever I've learned from past 5 to 6 years, and would want all of you to give your support and ideas, because here we are like I am going to announce what we have launched recently, and which is where we are trying to make a community wherein we can discuss upon the solutions and think about the horizons and increase our thought process for as per SRE, and how we can take a certain problem. So we have started a new thing called discussion forum, wherein we'll be putting certain problems, and all of us will be sitting there and thinking and trying to get a solution for that problem, wherein all of us can grow and find different solutions of the same problem. And you guys can even use it in your own companies, and if you have any issues that you are facing in your company, we can discuss it in our forum, get a solution, and we will be more equipped like in the end of the discussion about that problem and what are the pros and cons of each and every solution that we have. So we've started that. uh, Please keep on supporting us on Instagram, on our YouTube channel. We have all the sessions posted on our YouTube channel as well, so please go and check that out as well. So let's get started with our VPC today. So today we'll as we have previously discussed about different components that are there in VPC. So same those components, we are going to create all those components one by one, so that we have a grasp of all the components and where do they come into picture. So there are certain wizards which you can use to directly create your VPC, but that will give you a overview of how things work. But when you create each and every component, like you understand what that component means and how how does it add up in a bigger picture. So let's get started. I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen. I hope you can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so as you can see, there's a design here, a small design which we have here. This is an example. This is what we are going to replicate today. So this is a share example of our production VPCs, or a small example of our production VPCs that we see. So what you see here is this is your AWS account where your AWS is written. This The inner line is your VPC, where your VPC and your VPC CIDR is given. A CIDR is a specific range of IPs that will be allotted for that particular VPC. So this is the CIDR range for that VPC. This is a public subnet. This is a private subnet, and other components like route table, NAT instance, etc. So all these components we are going to create one by one, and I'm going to map it with this picture here, so that we can understand how is our structure evolving as such with each and every component, and what each and every component actually means. So what is this NAT? Why do we need this private instance? And what is the difference between a public subnet and a private subnet? We are going to discuss all these problems one by one. I'm sorry for this. So let's create our own VPC. So this is how our AWS console looks like in the starting. uh, these are multiple regions where AWS gives services on, or AWS has its data centers. So this is This is where you can launch your instances. So currently we are working on North Virginia. So let's create our own VPC. These are different regions which are given by AWS. This is a default. This is a default VPC which is created by AWS for you. Okay, let me tell you something about this VPC. CIDR of this VPC always lies in /16, and the subnet lies in /20. There for this VPC there will be like in all the availability zones there will be one public subnet. Okay, so this is an instance, or if you go back to this, there is no private subnet as such. So there is no NAT as such. There is only private subnet which is launched in this default VPC, which is given to you by AWS. Once you delete this, it cannot be recreated. You have to ask AWS support to create this VPC again for you. So whenever you're dealing with this VPC and deleting it, you have to be sure that you want to delete. Okay, so let's create our own VPC which has one public and one private subnet, and both the subnets are not in the same availability zone. They are in two different availability zones. Um, we are going to discuss about these availability zones in some time. So let's create our own VPCs. Let's start with blank mines, wherein we don't know much about it. So my name, it is asking me about the name. I have given the name as demo. CIDR block. So the CIDR block, if you want to calculate your CIDR block, it can be like CIDR block can be anything. So if you want to discuss more about CIDR blocks, you have to calculate it like this. There are different utilities to calculate CIDR blocks and how many IPs or hosts can be there in that CIDR block. But basically, this is what I use IP calc to calculate my CIDRs as to how many hosts will be there, how many subnets can I create, etc., etc. So all that information I can get from this iCalc. Okay. So currently, since my CIDR is small, like my requirement is pretty small, I can take a small CIDR called /20, wherein I will get only 4,000 IPs. So I will just get 4,000 IPs. If I have to increase the CIDR, I cannot do it. I have to recreate my VPC. So this is a problem. Once CIDR is given, it's given. So you have to be sure as to how many IPs or hosts that you would need, and keep them in buffer as well, because like if in my CIDR there are 4,094 instances or IPs or hosts that can be launched, I will not get all of them, because some of the IPs will be taken by AWS services itself. So there are DHCP services, etc. services run, DNS services which run in your VPC. So for that also some CIDRs are used. So you can use this CIDR. Currently, or for now, I'm using 16 CIDR, same as that of the one given in this question. Okay, so I'm using this CIDR only. If I use this CIDR, I'll get 65,000 hosts. So that's pretty much, that will cover all the use cases that I have. So I will start with this. So for tenancy, there are two options. One is default and one is dedicated. So default is the default setting of AWS, wherein you will give, in this region, anywhere on the servers, your instances can be launched. So in this region, there will be multiple data centers of like multiple servers of AWS in their data center, and anywhere on those servers, your instances can be launched. Okay. While in case of dedicated, you will get a dedicated servers for you. Okay. So in that entire AWS environment, or in that entire AWS data center, you will get a dedicated servers for yourself, for your VPC, wherein no other instances can be launched except for your VPC. So obviously, since it is dedicated, it will be highly charged. So the charge for this is higher than that of default. Okay, so we will still continue with default. and create our instance. So that requirement of using dedicated, uh, if it is some specific requirement, then only we go for dedicated ones. Else mostly we create default ones because it's highly charged. And pretty much in AWS, pretty much they give you a lot of security, and instances instances in two different VPCs cannot, even if they are on the same server, they will not be able to interact with each other until and unless specific uh, VPC pairing is not done, or specific configurations are not done. So they will not be able to interact with each other even if they are on the same server. So that kind of security is already given by AWS. That's why mostly no one goes for dedicated ones. But if you are working for some specific bank, and banks are pretty much specific with what they use, so in that case, maybe their security doesn't allow you, or their compliance doesn't allow you to use default setting. For that cases, you can still go for dedicated ones. So, so this is how we create our VPC. Now only our VPC is created. There's no subnet. There's nothing else. Some default DHCP options and a default route table is created. This default route table only is not connected to internet currently. It will only be able to identify internal network. Okay. So we are done with our VPC creation. Next thing that we'll be doing is subnet creation. So until and unless you create a subnet, your VPC is of no use, because you will not be able to create any instance until you have a subnet, at least one subnet in your VPC. So you have to create a subnet. Now I already told you that we want to create two subnets. One is private and one is public. What is the difference between them? We'll let you know. So let's start creating a subnet. First subnet that I'm creating, I'm naming it as private. So I can name it as demo private also, but demo private. VPC, you have to select the VPC, your VPC name where you want to launch this subnet. Now, subnet concept as such works in an availability zone. Okay, so you have to tell, okay, in this availability zone I need this subnet. So what is availability zone? Consider it as a logical separation. Like even in a region, there is a logically they have separated and created two areas for you, which are in HA for each other, like they are in HA. So what they do is they have different internet line, they have different lines for those two AZs, so that even if one AZ goes down or one availability zone goes down, there will be another availability zone which is available. So logically, it's just logical separation, but just for simplicity and for understanding purposes, you can consider it as there is a data center in Mumbai, but in Mumbai there is one data center of AWS is in one as at one place, and the other one is at other place. So that, and their internet lines, their electricity lines, etc. So all those things are in different places, so that nothing can affect AWS. Like even if availability zone goes down, your site is not affected if you have designed your VPC in that manner, in HA manner. Then there will be no effect as such. So we just take it in any of the availability zone currently, because we don't have any specification as such. But yes, now for a subnet also you need to give from your entire VPC, you have to create different chunks. Like I'll give you an example. So you have your office, but in your office you have uh, two rooms. One room has 10 machines and the other room has 10 machines. It's like that. So those 10 machines are on one line and will have one specific type of cider. The other machine, uh, the other uh, the other room in your office will have other set of ciders, so that these two machines, whenever they interact, they have to interact in a, they can interact in a secured way also. So this CIDR block, here it is given this. Now let's calculate how many IPs or how many instances can you launch in this CIDR. So this was our CIDR, which we initially started with. I want to cut it in /24 CIDRs. Since if you go and check this out, it's /24, right? So I'll cut it in /24 CIDRs. So this IPv4 calculations or subnet CIDR calculations itself is a little complicated and will take a lot of our time if we start talking specifically on this. So if you want, we can have a particular session wherein we will be explaining specific things about and a lot more in advanced version of this. But for now, we'll keep it as introductory, wherein you can decide a CIDR, you can decide how many subnets you want to create, you can decide what will be the CIDR of your subnet. So my CIDR subnet will be /24 if I want to create. Just let's see how many subnets that can you create in this VPC. So you can create 256 subnets in this VPC of /24. These are the CIDR ranges of your subnets. This is the minimum host range and this is the max host range and this is your broadcast. Okay. Now if you want /20, there will be 16 CIDRs which you can create. Every CIDR or every subnet will have 4,000 IPs, can have 4,000 IPs. So since we don't want this, we can have still have /24, which can have just 200 instances launched. So around 200 instances you can launch in that subnet if you create a subnet with /24 CIDR. So let's create this. Let's create the first. So there are 256. Let's start with the first one. Oh my god. So this is difficult. Okay. So let me take the first one. So first one will be approximately like this. So let's stick with this. Let's create our first subnet. So if you see our first subnet demo private is already created. How will you identify from which VPC it is? You can identify it from here. So if you remove this, you'll get a lot of subnets from different VPCs. But this is our VPC where we have launched this private subnet currently. Demo public. So currently we are just naming it public. Both the subnets are absolutely same. They are created the same. There is one difference that we'll have to create manually. So we'll do it in just some time. So let's do it in some other availability zone, and the CIDR block, you can select any of the CIDR block. Currently I'm selecting this CIDR block and using it. You can use any CIDR block. So you have 256 subnets with you. You can use any of them, any one of the 256. So I have used the first one and some 253rd one I'm using. So these are the two subnets which we have just now created. Next concept which we'll be learning is how to connect. Now when you will go and check the route table. So route table is one specific thing which will be able to tell you how traffic will be like how will the traffic flow. Like if you launch an instance in any of these subnets, how will the traffic flow? So here in the route table, check the routes. By default, they only give one route, which is for local. So, which means that currently all your instances, even if you launch a specific instance in any of these CIDRs, okay, they will behave the same. They will only be able to identify internal network and not anything outside on internet. So because we have not attached anything yet. So it means that you have an office wherein you have connected 10 servers. but those 10 servers are connected to each other, but there's no router, so you won't be able to connect to internet. Next thing that we will be creating is internet gateway. So why do we need internet gateway? To connect your VPC to outside world, like to internet, we need an internet gateway, which is a component given to you by AWS. It is highly scalable. You don't, once you create it, you don't have to worry about it. It like it can take as much traffic as like it can scale up according to the traffic which is coming and flowing. Okay, so you don't have to worry about it once it is created. And let's create our internet gateway to connect my VPC which I have just created to internet. So so there's one internet gateway which is already created and attached to my public, which was my default VPC. This is for the default VPC which was already created by uh, which is already created or given to me by uh, AWS. So I'll create my own internet gateway, my IG. So create. My IG is already created. Let's see my internet gateway. It is available, but it is not attached to anything. Let's attach it to my VPC. So all this information that you are getting right now uh, will be helpful for you also if you are using any tool, external tool like Terraform to create your VPCs or to automate the creation. You can use cloud formation, etc., etc. So all these components will be helpful to let you understand what is the role of that specific component and how did a public subnet create become public, or how did a private subnet become private. So this is your IG. Now this IG is connected to your VPC, but it is not yet connected to any of the subnet. Now to create my public subnet public, I need to connect that subnet directly to IG, which means that any of the instances which will be launched in that subnet will have a public IP and will be accessible via internet. And also we can access internet from any of the instances which are there inside that public network. So that public subnet means it is accessible from internet and it can access internet. Okay, but we don't need that for our database instances, obviously. So we don't want our database instances or our information to be there on public subnet and will and should be available to public. So we will keep all those all those instances where we create databases, where we have our code, etc., in our private subnet, while we can create our ELBs, external ELBs, etc., in our public subnet. And also some instances also you like if you have nginx, ingress, etc., that you want to create on your own and manage a load balancer on your own, then you can launch an instance inside your public subnet also. So you can use public subnet in multiple ways, but basically they are used to launch some specific things only, and rest everything we keep it in private so that that information or that instance is not directly attached to internet or is directly available on internet. So this is how we create a public and private subnet. So how will you attach this public subnet to your IG? I just told you that all the information regarding how the traffic will flow will mainly lie in the route table. So you need to add it in the route table. So instead of adding in an existing route table, we'll create our own route table, which we'll name it as route table public. We'll launch it in our demo VPC. So if you name your VPC correctly, you will get, if you name and tag your certain things correctly, it is always advisable to do that because it is helpful for you. Like on the basis of tags, you can get get uh, cost of a particular VPC as well, or of a particular component. So it is very important for you to get this, to get your tags right, and also attach certain specific tags which will help you identify what this instance or what this route table means, why it is there, for what VPC it was created, etc., etc. So from the name only, if you write demo route table public, it is specific that okay, it is for demo VPC, it is a route table and it is for public subnet. So we'll create it for a public subnet. Currently, we'll have same routes as that of our default route table, but we are going to add one more route here, which says all traffic to internet gateway, which means that all the traffic except the local traffic will flow via IG, which means that if you go 10.0.0.16, if the CIDR, or if you are calling any instance which is there inside the network, it is okay. But if you're calling anything else, it is going to go to internet to find that network, find that thing. Like if I launch an instance on this machine, and uh, I do 172 dot something something something, it is going to go to internet to find out that IP for me. Okay, so all the traffic will flow to internet. This is what this route table means. Now we have created a route table. We need to attach this route table to our public subnet. So we'll go to our public subnet and update the route table here. So now my public subnet is actually public and it can access internet. So this is how we create a public subnet. Now the next topic that we'll be creating is how to create a private subnet. Now this subnet which we have right now is private. It doesn't have any internet. It is only going to it will only be able to discover internal network, which is good practice. But now problem arises. Like majorly, even on private subnets, you might need to install certain things. Like suppose I work on MongoDB and I have to install MongoDB on an instance which is launched in my private subnet. I don't have internet on that subnet now. Okay, so how will I install that? All I'll have to manually copy all the tasks, files, etc., and will have to install it manually without using any package manager, because it will not be able to connect to any of the repos in the package manager. So to avoid all of this, we have certain thing called NAT, which you see here. So if you see that NAT instance is launched in public, but our public subnet is our private subnet is connected to NAT, and via our NAT it is taking a traffic to internet gateway. Good thing in NAT is, or a difference between NAT and IG is, in IG there is free flow. Like traffic can go out from IG and can come in from IG. Like uh, your any instance which is launched in this subnet will be public. While if you connect, because it is connected directly to IG. Okay, but in your private subnet, none of your instances will have a public IP or will be accessible from internet. Why? Because it is not directly connected to internet gateway, it is connected via NAT. Now NAT means that traffic can flow out, like you can access internet, but internet cannot access you, or internet will not be able to identify any of the instances which is under NAT. Under NAT as in which is connected to NAT. They will only be able to discover the NAT IP. Okay, this is the beauty of NAT. So we do have a post on NAT and and what specifically NAT does. There are multiple roles that NAT can do. So whenever any traffic is coming inside, it can do a translation for you. and IP translation for you, etc., etc. So it can do a lot of things for you. So this is one use of NAT here. So here they have created NAT instance. So um, NAT in your AWS can be created using two ways. One is NAT instance and other one is NAT gateway. NAT instance means that you have to create in your public subnet, you have to go create a NAT instance and manage that NAT instance on your own. While a NAT gateway is already managed service by AWS. So they create a NAT gateway for you, they manage that NAT instance for you. All you have to do is connect your subnet to NAT gateway. It is scalable as well, so it is always advisable to use NAT gateway instead of NAT instance. So if you see, this NAT instance has an elastic IP. Let's create. Next thing that we'll be discussing first before creating our NAT gateway is our elastic IP. So what exactly is elastic IP? What do you mean by a public IP, elastic IP, and private IP? So what is the difference between all three of them is what we're going to discuss the next. By the time, let's discuss about private IP, public IP, and our elastic IP. Yes, you were saying something? Okay. So let's discuss that first and then I'll share my screen and we can create our own elastic IP, public IP, and yes, we are going to take that question in the end. Because mostly I've answered everything related to that question. Like if we still have doubts on that, we can discuss that topic again. And let's try and finish this VPC creation first and fast. Okay.
No issue, ma'am. No issue.
Okay. So what we are discussing right now is private IP, public IP, and elastic IP. So do you have any idea currently what does they mean? Like what does an elastic IP and private IP or public IP would mean?
Actually, elastic IP is like a pay for paying. We are paying for the elastic IP, but not a public IP. We get by the when we launch the instance, so we get the public IP and also private IP.
Yeah.
And what is the meaning of and public IP means when we create an instance, so we got we got the public IP. By the public IP, we access our instance to login cell and all.
Okay. So pretty good answer, very close. Now let's discuss it in a little more detail as to what is the difference between them.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Thank you for your answer and
Welcome.
thanks for trying. Okay. So then so what we were discussing is private IP first. So private IP is an internal network. So suppose you have set up a company and you have 10 machines installed. So all those 10 machines, if they are connected via a wire, every interface, like even I need to share my screen first. Okay. So even on your own computer, every interface is bind with a specific IP. On my computer, there will be a lot of IPs, but let's discuss it one by one. So this is a general idea of okay, this 127.0.0 is your loop zero,
Yeah,
etc.,
loop
etc.
back.
So you will
Yeah,
yes,
loop.
this is your back. There will be bridge, there will be a private IP, there will be a public IP, which you can see here. So this is some private IP, etc. So anywhere, any computer which has any interface bind to it will have a private IP. Now, what do you mean by a public IP? So an example of public IP which we see daily in our day-to-day life is when we connect our computers to internet. So whenever we connect our computers to any router using a Wi-Fi or using an Ethernet cable, that cable creates a
The
interface
public.
on your machine. Hello.
Yes, yes.
So
I'm
that,
getting. Yes.
yes, I have something on chat also. Okay. So that particular thing, that whenever you connect it to internet, there will be an interface which will be bind to your machine, which is why your machine will get a specific IP whenever you connect to a router. That specific IP is
It's
public
public.
and will be publicly, like, is whenever you send an outside request, is publicly visible also in any of the packets that you send outside. Okay.
Yes.
But the beauty of that public IP is whenever you reconnect to the same router, you will get a different IP. When you get when you
Yes.
when you have this DHCP in your routers, you will have a different IP attached to it. You will not
Yeah.
get the same
Dynamic
IP.
host. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
you'll get a DHCP IP, a different IP attached to your instances. So same thing happens with your AWS instances also. Even if you add,
By router, we get a private IP. Means when we check if config in our laptop, in our machine, then we get the private IPs.
yes, but if you want to get your public IP, there is a tool called my IP or
My
something.
IP. Yes.
My
Yes.
IP, you will get your public IP of that router which is connected to your internet. So
Yes. Yes.
okay, so this is about public IPs. Now, difference between a public IP and why did we need an elastic IP? Now, if you already get a public IP and you can connect to internet, that internet can reach that IP, then why do we need an elastic IP? Like, what is the need to pay for an elastic IP and get it, and then keep on paying approximately $0.01 per hour? Like, why is that need? So
Actually,
that
yes.
question
Yes.
is answered. Yes.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Actually, Elastic IP we use for production. Like if machine is stopped by any accidentally, so machine is stopped. So that's why if we have a Elastic IP, that we do not have any loss about the storage and other thing. But if we have a public IP, dynamically means we don't have a Elastic IP, so we have a public IP. So if a machine is stopped by mistake, and so when we get start again, then we get the different type public IP. So we can lose something. Yeah, we can lose the client user, which they are hitting our request. They are hitting the request on our application production server. I
Yes,
think.
bang on. Okay, so you said it pretty well, and you said it absolutely right that if you have a public IP attached to your instance, then as soon as you restart your machine and or your machine has any issues, it gets stopped, and you restart your machine, you stop and start your machine, then that interface IP which is attached, or the public IP which is attached to that instance, will change, which
Yes.
we don't want for our production servers. Why do we don't want it for production servers? Now, question here is, why can't that work with our production servers? So it doesn't have to do anything with the storage. So you can still have your storage in your EBS. Everything will be intact. But what will not be intact is the request that will be coming in. So the request that will be coming in thinking about the same IP. Now, why is that? That the IP has changed and the requests are coming in on the same IP because of the DNS that we use day to day. So we cannot remember all these IPv4 addresses that we get. We don't even remember Google's IPv4 address. So we do remember for Google, but for others we don't remember. So for Facebook, we don't remember like what is the IP that IPv4 that we should hit to get into Facebook. So we
Yes.
don't
Yes.
remember all this. So what we remember is the DNS name, which is understandable, human readable format. So whenever
That's
you
why
do this,
DNS came.
yes. So whenever you do dig and any of the public DNS, you will get an IP attached to that DNS. So that IP cannot change. And if that IP changes, then what you have to do is change all the DNS servers in the world. So this happened with us in our company. Like we tried to switch, like that was a forceful switch that we had to make from one instance to, from one account to the other account. So we had to change AWS accounts. We changed it, so everything was working fine. Now we tested everything. Now we have to actually switch IPs for production. How will we switch that IP for production? We have to, even if we make that change in your AWS account route 53 entries, those entries needs to be migrated to all the DNS servers in the world. So since it needs migration of all the DNS servers in the world, it can take 15 to 20 minutes of your time to migrate this IP to all the DNS. In fact, half an hour also. So for half an hour, people are going to identify this IP only and are going to hit this IP. Okay, until and unless all the DNS in the world is changed and all the caching is changed and stuff like that.
Yes,
So
yes.
which we don't want. Okay, so since we don't want to change the DNS ever, so the DNS, the IP behind our DNS, what we do is we have this concept of elastic IP. So in our elastic IP, we ask AWS to give us an IP for our account, for our usage and from their pool. So we want we want a public IP, simple public IP from their pool of public IPs which is available for them. We take that, keep it in our account until and unless we release it, no one else can use it. So then it becomes exclusive for you. You can attach it to anything you want. Okay, you can attach it to your LBs, you can attach it to anything you want, but that IPs will remain same. So even in your LBs, they attach public IP. So whenever your LBs you change or you have any Kubernetes environment where your LBs are recreated, then in that case, it will have another public subnet, public IP, which will be migrated. So that issue does happen. So let's create an elastic IP. So this elastic IP, whenever we are creating, we have to be very careful because it is chargeable. Even if you use it for 15 minutes, it will be charged for entire hour. So since we are taking it from the Amazon pool of IPv4 addresses, it's okay. If you want, we can have an entire session discussing about how this IPv4 comes. But since we have less of time, we will not discuss it here in this session. If you guys want, we can have an interesting session behind how an IP is allotted. So that is more of a networking section. So this is our elastic IP. Let's create a NAT gateway pretty fast. So there's no NAT gateway which was created earlier for our default VPC, which I already told that doesn't have any internet. All the subnets are directly connected to IG, internet gateway. So they're all connected to public. So here it will only show all the elastic IPs which are not attached yet, but are available in your account. So you can take this, you can add name tag, which is always advisable. Please use, I'm just using easy tags right now, but you can obviously use some more meaningful tags. So demo NAT. So we used a NAT gateway. We are waiting for it to come up and then we'll see what changes does it bring in our subnet. So we have given some subnets also here. So we have given a subnet as well. So which means that one NAT can be connected to one subnet. Okay. So it is only connected to one subnet and it like mostly for one availability zone, you can have just one NAT. So sorry, your IG can be shared across multiple regions, across multiple availability zones, but your NAT cannot be shared. So you need to have multiple NATs also if you are using different availability zones. So for all the availability zones, you need to have certain NAT. Since here we have just one private subnet, we only need one NAT for now. So we're just waiting for it to come up. It might take some time for it to attach network interface, etc. So guys, any questions till here?
No, ma'am. Actually, I got it all, and nice.
I know you might have
We are
already
exchanging.
known about some of the stuff, but it's always good to understand each and every component in depth and to know each and every component to why it is used, so that it is always helpful. Like it helped me a lot whenever I was designing any of, like I was architecting an AWS environment for any of the companies. So it is always helpful to understand each and every component, and always try and bind any of your AWS terms to your data centers, because uh, work because every component that you see or every service that you see is or is virtually created for you by AWS. So this NAT is actually a hardware as well. So you should know about what does that hardware do, how does, like, what hardware or what thought process might have went through behind creating a specific instance. Like if you create an instance, if you create an RDS, what does a multi-AZ RDS means, and stuff like that. So we are going to cover all those topics, but please start thinking about that aspect as well, because that is when you'll be able to think better and think in a way which will help you grow a little bit from already predefined norms of AWS. So most of the AWS people who even have an AWS certification, like I know I have, and some of my friends also have. So we started when we had this certification stuff and all. So that time we did not think about the hardware component which might have gone through. So it is easier for you to, if you know about the hardware components, if you know what the hardware might have been, then it will be easy for you to map that with the other providers as well. So there are other providers also in the market, everyone name different things differently. So you need to know about these components as such as a hardware as well. So it will help you in case of networking, like when networking as such comes into picture. So this NAT is already created. Let's go and check our private subnet and its route table, which is very important. So currently my route table doesn't have any NAT attached to it. So it is not able to connect to internet for now. So any of the instances which will be launched in this subnet will not have any internet access. Now let's give it an internet access. So, so for every availability zone, we need a NAT. So NATs cannot be shared between availability zones as such. So let's create our private route table, demo, VPC, create. So there is this route table. Let's update the routes to send all the traffic except the internal traffic to NAT gateway, which is there available for us. Let's attach this route table to our private subnet so that we can complete our. So if I attach it to public, then this subnet will become public and will have all the internet access, and every instance will be accessible via internet as well. So since we want it to be private, we want all the instances which is launched in this subnet to be not to be secured, then we will add it via NAT. That means we'll just update the route table. So difference between both of them is very minute. So whenever we are designing this, we'll have to be pretty sure. So we have designed it well. So now let's go back to this. If you see, we have created this public subnet, we have created a private subnet. You can launch multiple instances here. Let's see the route table. Route tables look similar to what we have created. We have an elastic IP, maybe not the same IP, but we have an elastic IP currently, and our AWS VPC. So this is what we did currently right now. One difference, one thing that I want to leave you with. Okay, most of the people kind of miss this. That just check it out. We have same siders, same number of hosts in both the siders as we calculated using iCalc. Okay, let me do it again for you. iCalc, we have 254. This is wrong, right? I am earlier one was also wrong. My bad, guys. No, it's not getting copied. 252. So see, according to iCalc, it should have 254. 254 hosts IPs available, but on your console, you will only see some IPs less. So whenever you have launched your VPC, some IPs are already being used. In your public IP, in your private IP, you only have 250. Only have 250 IPs, and in your in your public you have 251, and in your private you have to only 250 IPs. Where does the other IPs go? So we need to find out where does the other IPs go, and on what all components does, whenever we are creating this VPC, what all components took the other IPs. So guys, please check that out, give it a thought, and it's going to blow your mind that there are certain IPs, some specific IPs also, which are allotted to certain resources which we didn't even know. So that is all what I had for this session. Anything else that you might want to discuss around this?
No, ma'am. Yeah, I got it all things, and there it's a very nice to share the concept about VPC, and it's very helpful for me.
Thank you.
And
I hope we were able to deliver certain value to you.
yeah, sure.
Thank you. So please do find out that where did the other IPs go, and
Okay, okay.
do let us know also. We will try and post it. If you give us the IPs, then we will try and post your name with all the answers there on our page. Find it out. There is certain things that are coming up, and there are certain things or components, hidden components, that your AWS by default creates it for you, and we don't even know. Like right now also, there are certain components which are already created. There they have used these IP before addresses already, so we don't know. Discuss that next time whenever we'll meet, or if you get answers, please do let us know. We will post that. If you
Okay, ma'am.
don't
Okay,
get
sure, ma'am. Sure.
if you don't give
Actually,
us an
yes,
answer,
yes.
we will make a content out of it and post it. So I do
Okay,
know
okay.
certain points already, but I'm not going to give you the answer directly right away, because it's always good that we do explore certain things and keep an open question, so that our minds keep on working, and when we keep on exploring certain things, we learn more than what we directly get from internet. So even it was
Okay.
when I found it, when I did find out, it was difficult, and we actually were searching for that specific IP. That is when we got that, okay, this is the component, or these are the components which took my IP, and I have to be careful whenever we are creating our IPs. So please find that out and let us know. We'll be waiting for the answers, and please keep on commenting on our discussion forum as well. We or
Yeah,
if you
sure,
have
ma'am. Sure.
any questions, or if you have any life projects or any project wherein you're facing any issue, or you faced any issue in your previous companies or company, do let us know. We will start a discussion on our portal for that, and let's keep everyone's mind rolling. Okay. So for
Okay.
with
Yes.
this, we'll end our session today, and thanks